Welcome into another episode of Dads in Timeout. This is your host, Jesse James Williams. Some people call me Jesse James. Some people call me Jay Will. And I'm just going to do a quick podcast talking about the ins and outs of sports. I've been out for a while. You guys, if you know me, know that I've been overseas, deployed with the military. I'm home on leave, so the Army's still paying me. So technically, right now, I will be considered a professional sports podcaster. So, this episode will be posted on my YouTube page at Dads in Timeout on YouTube. It'll also be on, I'm going to upload it to Anchor, and Anchor will then distribute it to Apple, and I guess Google Podcasts is going away. So mainly it'll be on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. You can check it out there. If not, there's some other options, Castbox and some others that I don't know if people use that. Or if you want, you can just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Since my boy Jerry Bowling said I only had 7 followers, I actually have like 70 or 80. So not a whole lot, but let's get into it. Big news of the weekend, of course, we had the NFL draft. I'm not going to get too much into that because I'm more of a basketball guy. We may touch on it here, but the big thing going on is the NBA playoffs. Now, Ian and I, and Ian Hull is the co-host of what is formerly known as the Rehab Sports Guys. We're looking into changing the name, hoping that's not breaking news. Ian, I'm sorry if it is, if it's not supposed to be given out at this time, but we're looking into different options for that. So hopefully him and I will shoot a pod. But me and him did a podcast. I uploaded it. I haven't really promoted it just because I thought it was really good, but there were some technical factors that came into play. And so anyways, during that podcast, we made predictions, and we never got through the predictions. And so, to be perfectly honest, I will go through what my predictions were. And Ian's, I don't want to speak for Ian, but his matched up pretty well. In the East, we predicted that exactly how the play-in went. We thought that Philadelphia would beat Miami, and then that Miami would beat Chicago or Atlanta. I think I took Chicago. And so that we predicted that it would be Boston versus Miami. I was going to take Boston. I thought they'd sweep. It looks like it's going to go at least 5. Game 4 is tonight. And this episode is being recorded on Monday, and I'm nearsighted or farsighted. April 30th, right? So I hope that's the correct date, but it's today's date when this will be posted. So yeah, Monday, April 30th. So I predicted that Boston would beat Miami. I predicted that Cleveland would beat Orlando. I'll get to that series as a Cavaliers fan. Predicted that I'm going to be honest, I thought Philadelphia would beat New York. Not looking too good on that front. And I'm going to talk about that series too. And I also predicted that, I was going to pick Milwaukee over Indiana, and Ian was going to pick Indiana over Milwaukee. Obviously, I didn't know that Dame was going to get hurt. I thought it'd be a close series. The series isn't over, but Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, is up 3-1 in that series. In the West, we predicted that Golden State would get the 8 seed, the Lakers would get the 7 seed. But I would have predicted Oklahoma City to win that first round matchup. I would have predicted, I was going to pick Dallas over the Clippers. That's 2-2 series. I was going to pick, or I did pick, or I'm not sure if we even got this far. I was going to actually take Minnesota over Phoenix, not in a sweep, but that series is concluded. That series is over, 4-0 Minnesota. And I was going to take the Nuggets over the Lakers in a close series. Obviously, it's 3-1. Lakers won game 4. So now it's 3-1. So, things that I'm interested about this playoffs. Number one, let's talk about So, I want to start with Phoenix and Minnesota. It's been a lot made about the play of Anthony Edwards, as it should be. He's been phenomenal. I actually haven't watched much of any of those games. They've been on late, and man, 4 games of basketball, it's like 8 hours of basketball in a day, 6 hours of basketball. Not that I don't love the game, but what transpired in this series is exactly what I thought would be the problem, and it's minus Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and I guess Bradley Beal. Phoenix doesn't have much of anything else. Phoenix didn't have the size to deal with Gobert and Towns, and there's this interesting Kevin Durant dynamic that is going on that I don't know if it's with the age and the wear and tear, but I saw people trying to put, and maybe it was just Kevin Durant himself, putting himself in the GOAT conversation. And to me, that's ridiculous. Kevin Durant is obviously an all-time great player, first ballot Hall of Famer, two finals MVPs. So let's walk through the Kevin Durant timeline. Kevin Durant was with Oklahoma City for 9 seasons. I don't begrudge him from wanting to get away from Russell Westbrook. I really don't. But at the same time, you went to the team that you were up 3-1. And so in 2016, Oklahoma City was up 3-1 on Golden State. Golden State comes back, wins the series. And then on July 4th of 2016, after the Cavaliers and LeBron James complete a 3-1 comeback on the Golden State Warriors, Kevin Durant joins Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, along with Steve Kerr and Andre Iguodala and all the other people that were on that team. They promptly win the next 2 championships. Kevin Durant is the best player in those finals. It's easier to be the best player when you've got those shooters around you, right? So take nothing away from him, but all finals are not judged equally. The third year, Kevin Durant gets called the B word by Draymond, and Draymond says, "We won before you and we'll win after you." That actually came true in 2022 when Golden State wins the championship without Kevin Durant, right? So Kevin Durant leaves in free agency and goes to Brooklyn. Puzzling move. He goes there with Kyrie. They're both hurt the first year. He's coming off the Achilles injury. Well, that situation ends up getting derailed. They get James Harden. They lose in the second round of the playoffs to Milwaukee. And then the next year they get swept by Boston, and Kevin Durant has a very uncharacteristic, they shut him down defensively. You had the Kyrie vaccine stuff. You had the Kyrie with the post of the anti-Semitic. Whether or not he made a post and he's not anti-Semitic, he posted a link. The NBA suspended him. The commissioner is Jewish. So you have these incidents. And then Kyrie Irving gets traded to Dallas. And then Kevin Durant demands it. Well, James Harden gets traded to Philadelphia. Kevin Durant gets traded to Phoenix last season, right? They get bounced in the second round, swept in the first round this year. And so I've watched some Phoenix Suns games this year, and I was like, why is Kevin Durant not demanding the ball? Because Kevin Durant is one of the greatest offensive players we have ever seen in the NBA. Like, the game that he has, being 7 feet tall, being able to shoot, score, put the ball on the floor, the length, just the silky smooth jump shot. And then you add, so Kevin Durant's later career, like, you got to think, it's been since 2018 that he's won a championship. LeBron has won a championship since then. Steph has won a championship since then. Denver's won the championship. Giannis has won a championship, right? So we're basically waiting on the Boston Celtics to, we'll get to them here in a minute. And so you can say that Kevin Durant doesn't have enough help, but when you're paying $140, $150 million for Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, who balled out yesterday, there already talks that the coach might get fired. Like, you have to figure out, like, this big three with the way the salary cap is designed and with the new apron. So if you go over the salary cap, then you get put into a certain apron, and it costs you the ability to sign certain free agents, and then draft pick compensation and trades. And it just gets to be a thing where that formula isn't going to work. And so Frank Vogel will take the fall. Is Kevin Durant go to another new team? So it's just been a frustrating thing because, unfortunately, we're going to talk more about Kevin Durant's team decision-making than we are about the greatness of the player Kevin Durant. I own a pair of KDs. I think he's great. The shoes are actually pretty clean. I'd show them to you, but they're off camera. Currently, I got some Jordans on. So it's just one of those things. And now Minnesota goes out there. They take care of business. Anthony Edwards is coming. He is the next superstar if he's not a superstar already. So he's only 22 years old. This is above schedule. Now, if they play Denver, which I think, if the Lakers come back from 3-0 against the defending champions and Jamal Murray's not out, then what else are we going to have to talk about with LeBron, bro? Like, this would be a great accomplishment, a team accomplishment. Don't think that's going to happen. I think they lose tonight. Now, that being said, if they win tonight and go home to LA, then the series, Denver needs to close this thing out, get Jamal Murray. But then how's he going to rest? Because the team that they're going to play has swept that series. So the NBA playoffs have proven to be very, very interesting. And I think that it's been a great NBA playoffs. Oklahoma City and the Thunder, I think that series was that series a sweep or it's over? I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up to see. But I think that series is either 3-0 or the series is over. I think the game's tonight. I could be wrong about that. Sorry for not having my facts right. Anyways, the series is a wrap. Oklahoma City's too much. Without Zion, the Pelicans don't really have a chance. Brandon Ingram has been okay in this series, but they just don't have enough. They have to get super hot from three to stay in these games. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet are a great duo. Now, I do think, like most people in NBA circles, think that they're a piece away from really contending for a championship. But that team plays real defense. Shai is an MVP candidate for a reason. Chet Holmgren is I always thought he'd be a really good player. He's still really skinny, but he rebounds, he dunks, he shoots threes. He's got a nice game. So, and obviously their coach Mark Daigleault, I hope I'm saying that right, just won Coach of the Year. So I think that series is interesting. 4-5. So I actually watched that game yesterday, and I kind of stopped paying attention a little bit. They went down. Dallas was down 31 points in the second quarter. And Dallas is in a tie game with like 2 or 3 minutes left. No Kawhi Leonard. And Bomani Jones on his podcast made a really good point about how Paul George is a really good 1, a really good 3, but doesn't play good as a 2. And by 1, 2, and 3, I mean like the offensive option for the team, right? So if he's the number 1 option, he's gotten his team to a conference finals. You can say in a week East with Indiana. When he's a 3, I'm assuming that would have been the situation at times with this Clippers team. But whenever he's the second guy, so everyone on TV and stuff was railing about how great of a game Paul George had. Paul George had a great first half. Paul George had 26 points in the first half. He didn't get his 28th point until late in the fourth quarter. Now, he hit a dagger 3 on a tough shot, and that's to be commended. But there were times I was watching this game, right? And Dallas did a great job coming back. Kyrie had a game for the ages. Luka hit some big shots. But they made some dumb mistakes, right? Passes that got intercepted, and it's like Maxi Kleber hit a big 3, but then he did dumb Maxi Kleber things. I think you have to move on from him in the offseason. I don't think he's good enough for the role they want him to play. Ian said something about if they got Kevin Love, think it'd be a perfect fit. I don't know if he's going to leave Miami. So I saw too many possessions in the fourth quarter, and luckily James Harden made some shots where Paul George literally just went and stood in the corner. Like, I watched only Paul George on these possessions. So I was like, man, maybe I'm tripping. Like, and Paul George just goes and stands in the right corner and just stands there. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, and the Clippers won the game. The ironic thing about this series is both games that Kawhi Leonard has played, the Clippers have lost. And both games where Kawhi Leonard has not played, the Mavericks lost. So, I'm not saying that you don't play Kawhi Leonard. Listen, that knee's never going to be the same. And this is why I've never believed in the Clippers. It's mainly a health issue. Tyronn Lue's a great coach. By the way, I'm probably fixing to sneeze, so I apologize. But, sorry about that. And so, I just never thought this team could really put it all together and win a championship. But they're so deep. Dallas has to stop getting off to these slow starts. And Luka argued some calls, but in his defense in this situation, I think that the calls that he argued, I think he was correct. And then he almost got a tech once, backed off, and then got a tech. Didn't cost him the game, so I have no issue with it. He's really putting forth effort on the defensive end. This series goes back to LA, which I don't see a huge home court advantage in this scenario, so I still think Dallas is okay. Dallas has to have a consistent third scoring option. Tim Hardaway Jr. is hurt. They have Gafford and Lively that are getting boards, but too many times the Clippers got second possessions. And so that series is intriguing. I'm still picking Dallas. I just don't trust this Clippers team without a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard. With a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard doing that mid-range stuff that he does and the great defense he plays. Now, one thing I will say about Paul George is though his offense suffered in the second half, he played great defense the entire game. So I want to give Paul George credit for that. The other series in the West, the Lakers and the Nuggets, listen. The Lakers, this should be at least 2-2. Maybe even 3-1 Lakers. They blew, listen, one thing that we have to stop doing is they blew a 10-point lead and double-digit lead in every game. It's the NBA. A 10-point lead, especially after the Steph Curry revolution, that's done. These NBA games, it's not college basketball where you're down 15. That's really like a miraculous comeback. The way these guys shoot the three, and as long as these games are, like if you watch like a 12-point NBA first quarter, they're scoring as many points as a lot of college teams do in a 20-minute half. So there's more possessions. The shot clock's obviously shorter in the NBA. These guys are the best of the best, not knocking the college guys, but you have guys that get drafted out of college to the NBA. Everyone in the NBA is a professional basketball player. They're there for a reason, right? Even if you don't want to say that Giannis's brother should be in the NBA, whatever, different topic. So it's late game execution for me, though, is what's killing the Lakers. And so had they, because I think they laid a dud in Game 3. But if they would have won Game 2 in Denver, then lost Game 3, and then won Game 4, you're at a 2-2 series. Worst case scenario, you go back home down 3-2, have a chance to win in your home court, and then Game 7 is anyone's ball game. I'm not quite sure what the status on Jamal Murray is. I heard he may not play this game. I think that changes a lot with their pick and roll, but doesn't mean Denver can't win because Jokic is still that dude. I'm not sure how I feel about him winning the MVP this year, but listen, I'm not going to knock it. I think that Luka Doncic. I mean, bro, how are you going to average 34 points and double-digit assists and not be the MVP of the league? Like, and they got all this PER and advanced statistics. Listen, I consider myself a nerd. Those are nerd stats. I understand watching Denver play why you would say Jokic is the MVP, but they need to create an offensive player of the year award an offensive player of the year award to go with the defensive player of the year award. So you could be like, okay, this guy's the MVP. Like, he's the most valuable player. Who was the best offensive player in the league? And it was Luka Doncic. Like, the stuff that he does with, yes, he has a wingman in Kyrie Irving, but they have to literally seemingly do everything for this team. So I still think Denver, with a healthy Jamal Murray, I think Denver still comes out of the West. Minnesota's going to have something to say about it. Let's get to the East, okay? It's going to be a super long podcast because I can't upload certain linked videos to my email, which I would need to do to post that onto Anchor. So, which from my phone, I can just upload this video straight to YouTube, but I'm also doing an audio podcast at the same time on Audacity. So I want to be able to upload it to Anchor through my phone and not have to like do it on the website, blah, blah, blah. So Eastern Conference, Boston is fine. Miami shot a franchise record from 3 in the only game they won. That was still actually a pretty close game. Without Jimmy Butler, they don't have a chance. And I said this with Ian. Miami is going to pay for not taking the regular season seriously. Like, and you can say, well, listen, we look at Miami with Butler, Hero, and Bam Adebayo. And that team should not be the 8th seed in the East or whatever they finished as, right? That team should be the at least the 6th seed, right? Like Indiana and Orlando had no business being better than Miami this year, and those are young, upcoming, really good teams. But Miami's that veteran team with a coach that's won 2 championships, a coach that has been to 6 NBA Finals now, because he went to the 4 with LeBron. He played the Lakers in 2020 and then the Nuggets last year in the finals. So you've got Jimmy Butler, who's now been to 2 NBA Finals. Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. That team should take care of business during the regular season, so you don't have to play the team with a historic point differential that the only reason we think they can't win is Ian said it best. Ian, my boy, said that my friend Ian from the Dads in Timeout, soon to be renamed podcast, he said that Boston plays with their food. And what he means by that is Boston gets up and then they don't put the death nail in people. And then you have questions about, is Jason Tatum that dude in the fourth quarter? He's 26, he's still young, but at some time, are you just going to live in the Eastern Conference Finals? They made the one trip to the finals in 2022 when they lost to Golden State. They were up, I want to say 2-0 in that series. But I just think it's one of those things where it's like, man, like at some point, Tatum has to go on a playoff. He's had playoff moments. He's dropped 50 points. But sometimes it's like, man, like, are you just a really, really, really good player, or are you a great, great player? And Jaylen Brown has the mindset of a great player. But, dude, you got Drew Holiday, you got Al Horford, you got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Peyton Pritchett, Kristaps Porzingis. Like, you've got to put this thing together and get to the finals and find a way to win. That's what we judge you on. Orlando, Cleveland. I thought after 2 games, Cleveland was going to win this series in 5. They get blown off the floor in the second half in Game 3. They get pretty much blown off the floor in Game 4. And now it's 2-2 going back to Cleveland against a good Orlando Magic team. I think Paolo is on stardom track, maybe superstardom. I really like his game. Suggs has been hurt, and the Wagner guys are pretty good, right? They're not very deep. Jonathan Isaacs is a very interesting player, and salute to that man for what he stands for in his personal life, like for representing for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Not a religious podcast. I do have one of those where I'll talk about that more, but some of y'all ain't into the Christian thing, and that's fine. But like I really respect Isaacs for that. But Cleveland, if Cleveland loses this series, they're gonna move on from the coach. That's just what's gonna happen. Is that fair? Darius Garland has not been the same player offensively that he was before he went out with injury early this year. And it can't just be Donovan Mitchell. It looks like Mobley has these really good first halves, and then he kind of tailors off. You have Max Strus, you have Karis LeVert. Say what you want about Karis LeVert. I think he works for this team as a 6th man. You've got the 2 big guys in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. Like, you have a team, but they didn't go get a small forward. They didn't get that number 3 in terms of the small forward position that I think they needed. So it doesn't matter. I think whoever wins this series gets. I think Boston has. If Boston can get past this depleted Miami team, who's also missing Terry Rozier, they walk to the conference finals. I would have said that Cleveland would have a chance against Boston, a small chance. But from what I've seen, this team runs too hot and cold, and I don't know if the necessary adjustments in the second half are being made. So, listen, Cleveland, that's my team. I've said it from the beginning. I've got the Cavaliers championship hat on right here for the people watching on video. Or I put my regular hat back on. So, yeah, I don't think it matters who wins this series. Boston walks to the conference finals. Indiana, Milwaukee, listen, no Giannis. Dame had an amazing first half of the first game. They win. And then it looks like Indiana's won 2 straight or 3 straight. I don't remember what that series is, to be honest. That's going to be interesting because the next series is Philadelphia and New York, and I would have picked Philly. Philly lost close games in 1 and 2. Joel Embiid goes crazy in Game 3, and they win. They have Game 4 on their home court. They jump out to a 12-point lead. Jalen Brunson scores 47 points. And here's the thing that really irked me about that game. was that the Knicks were getting every single loose ball, every single offensive rebound. Joel Embiid is gassed by the end of the game, but the numbers say you can't take him out in that third quarter or they probably are down more. And this is going to be interesting because if people think, and like what me and Ian for sure, think that Boston has a weakness in close games, then and Milwaukee gets bounced by Indiana. So let's say that Indiana plays New York. Because here's the thing, if Philadelphia comes back from a 3-1 deficit and wins this series, I don't think Embiid holds up through the rest of the playoffs. Like, Philadelphia just doesn't, in my opinion, and this is surprising because they have Nick Nurse as a head coach who's won a championship, who runs an offensive system, who I think is a really, really, really good coach. They don't always play smart basketball. Like, someone said it best, Tobias Harris, you can just tell he's not on the court. Like, when he's on the court, it feels like he's not even in the game. Like, he had a strong first quarter, but once again, they don't have that third guy. Maybe Maxi's just a year away, but Joel Embiid's health isn't getting any better. I think there is a scenario in which the New York Knicks, with the way they play defense, could make a run to the NBA Finals. Now, I don't think they have a chance against the team that comes out of the West. I just think that Denver has too much. I think if Minnesota got there, I just think with Anthony Edwards and Towns, and that would be an interesting series, but predicting the Minnesota Timberwolves to go to the NBA Finals, I think it's Denver's to lose, but it would not shock me if if the Knicks beat Boston in a 7-game series, at some point, are we going to break this thing up, or are we just going to ride with it? I mean, you're paying those guys all this money. Now Boston could walk to the finals if they were able to dominate the Knicks. I think that hurts them because they're not really that tested once they get to the Western Conference Finals and they play a team like Denver. Because honestly, I don't see... Now, well, here's the other thing, though. Let's say that Dallas shoots the lights out, and let's say Murray's not fully healthy, and Dallas makes a run to the finals or to the conference finals. Because if Dallas gets past the Clippers, I think they have a good chance to beat OKC. So you got a lot of young teams and teams that don't have a bunch of, like, Denver's the most complete starting five, but not a very good bench. But their starting five is so good with Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Murray, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They play defense, they're long, they're athletic, and they play within their system. So this is a fascinating NBA Finals because the team that should be the juggernaut healthy would be the Clippers. They would have Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Norm Powell, like all these, Terrence Mann, all these options off the bench. You got the Plumlee dude who just comes in and fouls people. So I don't really know he gets offensive rebounds. You got Big Zubac. So, but I mean, he's really in there because of what he brings in defense and all that, right? So then it's an interesting playoffs. I look forward to watching some of the games tonight. The NFL draft happened. I'll let people who love the NFL draft cover that more, only because I'm not, like, I didn't watch all these dudes play. I do think that Caleb Williams to the Bears was obvious, but they get a Dunze. So now they've got a Dunze, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams. That offense looks like it's primed and ready to go. Justin Fields has to be super mad. Michael Penix Jr., a lot of talk about that and how it upsets the locker room. And I get it. Listen, I respect Joel Klatt, and he knows way more about college, about football in general than I'll ever know, right? But what do I owe? Like, now, it would have been nice, because see, here's the problem is free agency comes up, and then you're still going through your draft process, right? So Kirk is available. They go with Kirk. They give him $100 million guaranteed. Then you fall in love with Michael Penix Jr. Listen, believe me or not, I wish I'd have said this on air or on tape. I saw the Michael Penix thing his first year in Washington, so 2 years ago, his junior year, right? I've been on the Michael Penix train. I understand the medical, right? I understand the medical issues. But a guy that can throw that kind of ball down the field with that amount of accuracy, in my opinion, they're like, we can't pass this up. But you don't let Kirk know until you're on the clock. Like, you've been having these thoughts, and you didn't bring him in for a visit. So Atlanta, I wish Penix would have gone somewhere where he could play sooner than later, because he's going to be 24 this year. Clapp made a good point. He's 24, but if we expect him to have like a regular career, that gives you 13, 14 years of this quarterback. Not everyone's going to play 20. Not everyone's going to play 39, 40. But if you can just get him into his 30s and keep him protected, he'll be fine, right? So Dallas didn't take a running back that was curious, and then they go and sign Zeke. Hey, listen, like, I don't run an organization. They took some offensive players and, like, I think a defensive dude, which is why I'm not going to do a lot of draft coverage, because I watched the entire first round, and I think I watched all of the second and the third round, or most of it. I know I got up or I got home and I watched that. And then the next day I followed some of that stuff. I was hanging out with my kids, so obviously I wasn't watching seventh round on TV. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to go ahead and cut this off. Oh, John Calipari to Arkansas. Super excited. Got a couple 5 stars and 4 stars already. Let's see where it goes. Woo Pig. That's my team. Kentucky fans. Whatever. Like, I'm tired of hearing from y'all already on Facebook threads that y'all aren't in. Like, these are Arkansas threads. And Arkansas fans drive me crazy too. Don't get me wrong. But, like, Kentucky fans, y'all ran that dude off his job. And then y'all are in here. I don't know, dude. I can't with the Kentucky basketball fans. So, anyways, I'm going to get off here. This has been an episode of Dad's in Timeout. I am your host, Jesse James Williams, a.k.a. J. Will. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed evening, and hopefully I'll bring you another podcast soon. Until then, God bless.